Alright, so now we're going to do the next topic, which is when you do reflections. Right. Now reflections can be done in different ways. Okay, let's say I've got my x, y axis there, right? I can do reflections of a point there through the x-axis, which means the distance on either side is the same. It reflects through the x-axis. Or I can reflect it through the y-axis. Alright? That's two options. So let's first cover those two. So the first one, reflection through the x-axis, I'm going to say. Reflection. Starting number 1, it's going to be through x-axis. Now the x-axis is also sometimes referred to as the line y equals to 0. Alright? Is the x, that's the line where my y values are all 0. So any point there, I have say 1 and the y is 0, 1 and 0, 2 and 0, 3 and 0, things like that. Okay, that's the line where y is 0. Now what's the general rule for that? Well, very simply, any input value that I give it, any x, y value, what happens to it is, now let's say that's my point 3 and 5, right, that I'm using there as an example. My sorry, my 3, 5 gets reflected through the x-axis, and the y value goes from the positive side to the negative side. So the y value changes sign. It becomes there, 3 and negative 5. See that? So that's my example. I'm going to write it there. The point 3, 5 becomes 3, negative 5. And that's usually the easy way, is to use a point to work back to my general rule. So what happened to my x, y? My x stayed x. My y became negative y. See that? And that's my general rule. Alright? Now let's do the second one. Second one for that is through y-axis. Right? And again, the y-axis has another name. We call it the line where x is equal to 0. Right? So what happens to my point x, y? Some of you can probably already guess what happens. Let's see. When I go across this way, my x value changes from positive side to negative side. So I'll have negative 3 and 5. Right? So I'll write my example here, which is that 3, 5, my point that I'm using, becomes negative 3 and 5. See that? That's my negative 3, 5. So x became negative x and y stayed y. There we go. Another one down. Then we do, thirdly, reflections through line y equals x. Oops, that's not it. Y equals x. Now that simply means, let's take this away. My Cartesian plane there. So I'm going to redraw it a little further over that way. What happens there? That's my x-axis, that's my y-axis. I have a line there where all my x and y values are the same. So when x is 1, y is 1. X is 5, y is 5. On that line at an angle of 45 degrees. So whatever I do, let's say I have the point 3 and 5, which would lie somewhere up there. Then it would reflect perpendicularly across, same distance on both sides, to there. Now, what happens with the reflection in the line of y equals to x is that, just as it says, y becomes x and x becomes y. Alright? So reflection in the line of y equals to x, the rule is that xy becomes the point yx. That's my reflection. Alright? Very simple. And then my 3, 5 point becomes a 5, 3 point. Okay. That's my input output. And then the last one that I'm going to do, number 4 there, is through line y equals to negative x. Now that's a line that goes also through the origin there, but at an angle of, so negative 45 degrees there, that angle. So y equals to negative x. That's that line there. And let me just draw that line there. So my general rule for that, my xy input, what happens to my input value for the xy? Well, again, they swap around. X becomes y becomes x, but they also change sign. So x becomes negative y, and y becomes negative x. As you can see, that point there, the 3, 5, will go across there, same distance on either side, to the point. My 3, 5 input ends up being negative 5, negative 3. See that? So negative 5, negative 3, round about there, something like that. Okay? So it reflects through that line. And that is all my reflections. Descriptions, rules, examples. Right.